Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be an interesting one because we are going to be talking about some beauty news that recently came up, I guess. And it is the fact that Morphe has gone bankrupt. Okay, I just stopped filming and then went to go do a little more research to see if there was any updates, which probably should have been done before this video, obviously. It is actually Forma Brands, so Morphe's parent company, that has filed for bankruptcy. And they are also the parent company to Morphe, obviously, Morphe 2, Bad Habit, Lipstick Queen, Playa Beauty, and Jaclyn Cosmetics. In this video, I'm going to mainly be talking about Morphe just because they are the brand's longest standing company. And I think the one that was likely worth the most. I'll be honest, this one did not shock me. I did see just after Christmas that Morphe had closed all of its stores in the US. I wonder if the one in Canada is closed. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they closed the one in Canada also. I think they had a couple in Canada, but the one closest to me I'm talking about. I'm wearing the not so new, but kind of new to me, Haus Labs foundation today. I'm testing it out. Gorgeous, but so far, no longevity. I am creasing in places I've never creased before. I usually don't really have pronounced smile lines, and maybe I'm only noticing them because I'm getting older, but I've never noticed them, like even last week. Like unless they popped up overnight, I've like continuously had to like use a powder puff to pat out my creases. So wear testing is not going fantastic on this foundation. I had heard a lot of great things, so I got it in hopes that I could maybe add it to my kit, and it is beautiful. My skin does look very nice, but if there's no longevity, then that doesn't really matter, you know what I mean? Anyway, so Morphe closed all of their stores in around Christmas time, and they laid off all of their employees with very little notice. A lot of their employees said that they had, you know, jobs lined up because they could see it coming, but I did see quite a few TikToks of previous Morphe employees saying that they were just given no notice, like 1 day's notice. And for people who are living paycheck to paycheck, that's an issue, you know what I mean? I can't say I was terribly surprised. I feel like they've had a lot of shady business practices. I just feel really, really poorly for the employees. I really hope that most of them could have something lined up like fairly quickly. But then the news came out a couple days ago that they were bankrupt. I thought this was not totally surprising, but still interesting. And I started thinking about what went wrong with them. And I think it's a lot of things. So I kind of wanted to discuss that with you guys today. So I asked some of my Instagram followers why, in their opinion, Morphe has gone bankrupt, because I think there are a lot of things that kind of contributed to their bankruptcy. So I'm gonna pull up my phone here because I had a lot of follower input. So one person said that they were shady from the get-go. I think that is true. I think at first, you know, people were all over Morphe because at first so many influencers were pushing the brand and saying how great they were. And then the whole affiliate marketing thing came out. So people realized that they were actually getting paid to push the brand. And I think that just wasn't a good foot to start out on. I think that probably turned off a lot of potential consumers immediately. And then a couple years down the road, they had scandals such as changing formulas without telling consumers. Some people thought that their whole concept of like private labeling, because they started out as a private labeled brand, some people thought that was shady. I think it's, you know, fairly common in the makeup industry, so I didn't think it was, you know, that big of a deal. But I can definitely see how some people can interpret that as them being shady. And with their collaboration with Jaclyn Hill, with the whole Vault collection, that was really shady. I don't think any of us really know what happened there. They said that they completely remade palettes, like it was just this elaborate story that I don't think anyone really believed in its entirety. I'm sure certain aspects may have been true, but I feel like they were just, you know, dancing around trying to save their reputation as opposed to just coming out and telling the truth as to what happened, which I think would have earned the respect of their consumers. So I do agree that their lack of transparency and honesty with their consumers definitely contributed to them going bankrupt, because I think a lot of people were reluctant to purchase from them. A lot of people said that they relied too heavily on influencers, and I agree again that 100% they relied way too heavily on influencers, because the thing with influencers is their reputations ebb and flow, their popularity ebb and flow. So if that is what your brand is solely based on, then your brand's reputation is going to ebb and flow, and your brand's popularity is going to ebb and flow with that influencer that you're so heavily associated with. And they had some really big names. They were associated with Jeffree Star, James Charles, Jaclyn Hill, who all had really big scandals. And when they were at their peak promoting the brand, of course they were thriving. But then when their reputations went, you know, really downhill and they got canceled. A lot of them didn't fully recover from that, and on top of that, if they did recover from it, it would have driven away a significant amount of consumers that would never return to the brand. On top of that, you do have to pay creators and influencers a large amount of money for a collaboration, or you have to contractually owe them a certain percent of your sales. So they're not getting all of that profit when you have an influencer collab. And you know, as a business, that strategy is often okay. But when your whole brand is based off of influencer collabs, like it wasn't just, you know, Jacqueline, James, and Jeffrey, the 3 J's, but, you know, they had one with Maddie Ziegler's, I don't know how to pronounce her name. They had Dixie and Charlie D'Amelio for Morphe 2. They had, another TikToker, I can't remember her name, but they had a collab with her as well. So yes, while collaborating with influencers is a very important business strategy, when it's the only thing that your brand is based off of, things can become much less profitable really quickly. I don't even want to know how much they had to pay Charlie and Dixie for Morphe too. Like, it must have been a lot. A lot of people also mentioned that they lean too heavily into their mega 35 pan palettes. And again, I think that that is absolutely correct, because not only, number one, the quality of those palettes aren't fantastic, let's be honest. Number two, mega palettes had their moment in 2015, 2016. You felt like you were really getting value. But then as brands kept pushing out like large quantities of makeup, everyone kind of scaled back and wanted smaller curated color stories. And while Morphe did put out like some 9 pans and stuff like that, I think they did rely way too heavily on their 35 pans. And realistically, when you have 35 pans, there are oftentimes going to be redundant shades. So if I run out of one shade of medium brown, there's 3 other in the palette that I can use. And Morphe was especially bad for putting redundant shades in their palettes. So if you ran out of one shade that you really love, chances are there was going to be something else in that palette that was very similar. I can guarantee you, I don't think I've even hit pan on any of my Morphe shadows. I'll be honest, I don't even use them anymore because I have way better things that I would prefer to use, and my Morphe palettes are heavily expired. I'm just keeping them for nostalgia purposes, but I never hit pan on anything. So there's really not that repurchase factor. The only product I can think of that you may have to repurchase from Morphe would be their continuous setting spray. That you would go through pretty quickly, and it's a pretty solid cult favorite. But things like brushes, you don't often have to repurchase. Even lower quality ones such as Morphe, like I have this Morphe brush right here, it doesn't even have a number, and I will go ahead and say this is not my highest quality brush, but I've still had it for 5 years. So brushes are not a consumable, and neither are those 35 pan eyeshadow palettes. And the things that are consumable that people are most likely to, you know, really go through and work through as a product would be complexion, but I feel like they failed to really create really high quality complexion products. When they did their first launch of concealer and foundation, I remember a lot of people not liking it, and it's not around anymore in their line, so clearly it wasn't a bestseller. Like I said, the real only consumable that I think I can see people purchasing a lot is the setting spray. However, I think that maybe if they saved their money from one influencer collab that they were hoping to do and invested that in the product development of a really fantastic range of concealers and foundations, maybe they wouldn't be in this predicament. Again, who's to say, but I think that definitely would have been a smarter move in the long run. Another reason that actually wasn't mentioned on my Instagram, but that I think I may have seen on TikTok or something, or maybe I came up with it in my own brain, I'm not really sure, but their rapid expansion of stores. They went worldwide so fast, like it was insanity. I think what they should have done is kept Morphe to being an online retailer, maybe opened up select stores in major hubs instead of one like everywhere. Like if we're talking Canada, maybe they'd have, well, that's not a good example because we really only have any stores in the hubs of Canada. But if we're talking US, maybe have one in New York, one in LA, one in Florida, maybe Tampa or something, and maybe one in like Texas or something, or Vegas, I don't know. And then, you know, having one in London, maybe one in Paris, like all of the bigger cities. If those stores combined with the online retailing goes really well, then maybe it would be a good idea to add more and more stores. But it just seemed that they opened like so many stores over the span of like a year and a half. And I just think it was too fast. And You know, when something grows that rapidly, you have to be prepared for things to slow down a little bit. And I think they were on the right track with the online retailer of, you know, certain online brands that were becoming popular that you couldn't get in Sephora, like Suva Beauty, Nabla, more indie brands like that. Jaclyn Cosmetics was obviously a good addition, even though I'm not like a personal big fan of that, but you know what I mean. Business wise, it was a good decision. Also, they're the parent company of Jaclyn Cosmetics and Rem Beauty. Imagine being the parent company of Ariana Grande's brand, one of the biggest superstars in the world, and still going bankrupt. Like, some really poor decision making had to have been involved with that. And I think, you know, with such rapid expansion, I don't think that could have done them any favors. Because again, when something is super duper popular, very, very rarely does it maintain that level of popularity forever, you know? Things usually slow down, the hype dies down, especially with makeup. I also think the slowing down of, you know, consumerism, the situation our economy is in right now, the pandemic also likely had such a big effect on this decision. I think it was just a perfect storm of like poor business practices and, you know, external factors that have affected most businesses that kind of led to, you know, this ending for them. One question I do have is, since they are the parent company of Jaclyn Cosmetics and Rem Beauty, does that mean they've gone bankrupt as well? I'm not really sure how that works. But yeah, over the past year or so, you know, the beauty boom has really slowed down. So a lot of brands have taken a hit, but I think also, you know, when you're so popular and business is so booming, and then when the consumerism of beauty just, you know, reduces so rapidly and so significantly, I think of course something like this was bound to happen to a bigger brand. And I think it was Morphe because they didn't lay down the foundation so that they would still be okay during a lull. And when influencer marketing slowed down, they just didn't have another leg to stand on. That was just like their whole shtick, you know what I mean? Anyway, I'm curious to hear your thoughts, if there's any points that I missed on why you think that this happened. Also, I'd be curious to know if you know what would be going on with Jaclyn Cosmetics, because I'm pretty sure Jaclyn Cosmetics doesn't sell super well, because I see them in like Winners and Marshalls all the time and I don't hear really anyone talking about them, so I am wondering how they would be doing. But at the same time, Jaclyn does have other sources of income. She has other brands. She has her YouTube channel that I'm sure still generates ad revenue. So I think because of that, Jaclyn Cosmetics might be okay. And Ariana Grande, Rem Beauty, like if it's up to Ariana, I'm sure they're gonna be fine, because her beauty brand is definitely not her main income source. So I just looked it up, and they actually have parted ways with Rem Beauty. They cited disappointing sales. So they basically ended their deal with Rem Beauty, so they are no longer their parent company. So I wonder what is in store for Rem Beauty now. I wonder if they'll even do the parent company thing, or maybe Ariana will like take this opportunity to kind of rebrand, because I feel like her products and like her whole theming, I feel like it's widely received as looking cheap. So I'm wondering if she's gonna do like a kind of Lady Gaga Haus Labs type deal and kind of just do a complete redo, or if she's gonna continue on her own. I don't really know. I guess we'll see. So yeah, I'd be interested to see what happens there, and please leave in the comments down below if you know or have any sort of ideas on what's gonna happen there. That's it from me today, just a short little video. I was testing out some new makeup products, so I figured I would hop on camera and just kind of discuss some things with you that have been on my mind that are going on in the beauty world right now. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you so much for watching if you've made it this far. Please don't forget to subscribe if you want to. If you don't, that's okay. I just really appreciate you being here. It helps out my channel so very much by you watching, so thank you. Please leave any video requests you may have in the comments down below, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys!